Hey, what's up, everyone? Appreciate you all joining us. Alrighty, we will get it rolling. Happy Friday per usual. Getting into a nice routine now. Can't believe it's week 15. It's kind of crazy how time flies. But exciting times ahead and really enjoying this whole workflow on a week-to-week basis. And I think, appreciate the community's sort of engagement every week, coming in, asking questions, being engaged. I think it really just makes the project a lot stronger in that sense. So with that, I will toss it over to AE for a little friendly hello.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in again. Also, nice to see you here, Nicholas. You said in Telegram that you couldn't make it, but you still did, so appreciate you. Thank you.
Hey guys, it's Wally. Happy Friday.
Hey guys, happy Friday. Thanks for joining. Good to see everyone.
And hey everyone, it's Bobby. How are you doing?
Awesome. Well, let's get it started with the topic at hand today. So we want to just discuss treasury diversification and what that really means. Is kind of a hot topic in DeFi lately, especially became an even hotter topic as kind of the broader market started to pull back, and basically just ensuring that every project is kind of ensuring that they're on strong footing, they've got good funding, and they're a sustainable long-term pathway. So I think it's really been an opportunity for every project to sort of reassess that and think about, the optionality they can gain from diversifying their treasury even more, and the benefits that might come with that, some of the drawbacks as well. So obviously wanted to kind of educate you all a little bit on the topic if you're not familiar with it, or if you are familiar with it, try to draw that draw the connection really between that topic and some of the forum discussion that we had. So the Era 2 emissions forum discussion, we had some great comments there, and some people brought up kind of treasury diversification. So we wanted to make sure that we're really being responsive to the community and some of those comments, and being current with some current topics that are going on in DeFi, and thinking about how that some of that might integrate with yAxis's future strategy in that sense. So with that, we'll kind of take it to a first little quick explainer, a little recap for anybody that's not really familiar with the topic as to what is treasury diversification. So basically, unless you do like a bunch of pre-sales or have like a ton of VCs backing you from the jump as a project, most project treasuries tend to end up holding a lot of their own token in their treasury. And yAxis is community run project, and a fair launch with the emission schedule. So and even with the sort of relaunch token swap. So obviously ended up with most of the treasury being in our own token. And it does offer some benefits because the project is kind of well aligned with its token price. So you could make that argument, but it does present a couple of issues. So basically, if you want to fund anything as a project, you need to kind of sell your own token, and you kind of need to do it indiscriminately. So regardless of the broader market conditions, which basically makes you sort of a forced seller in order to fund things and do things. So if a front end infrastructure provider, needs payment for that month, it doesn't matter if the token is up or down, etc. So, not only is this kind of counterintuitive, but it sort of decreases the value of the remaining treasury because you're kind of like selling on yourselves. So, and it's kind of like when you need it the most, it's kind of there the least. So project comes on hard times or something, that's when you need the treasury the most, and it's kind of there for you the least. So avoiding these situations and moving toward a diverse treasury was kind of a big motivator behind the recent controversial sushi raise. I don't know if you guys kind of saw that in the news. That was a hot topic all over crypto Twitter, was the big sushi raise. So that was a big focus for them. And like I said, it's been a hot topic across DeFi. A bunch of projects have really been focusing on trying to diversify their treasury given the sort of depressed market conditions. So generally speaking, treasury diversification is kind of the opposite of the situation I just described. where it's the idea of kind of holding many different types of assets in your treasury, not just your own token. So that way you're kind of well capitalized and well funded, regardless of market conditions. So you kind of want to hold like probably some blue chip assets to retain some upside, and then also probably some stables to, kind of have that downside rainy day fund. So with that, I will kind of toss it over to AE, who will describe a little bit more about why this is important and some of the optionality that Treasury diversification kind of enables.
Yeah, thanks, Summer. So the advantages and the options that it provides. Let's go into what a treasury should look like if you're diversifying it somewhat. So normally you have a treasury composed only of the governance token. Now, instead of doing that, you can hold those blue chip cryptocurrencies, or you can hold tokenized / synthetic real world assets. That could be stablecoins that he has mentioned, but it could actually also just be synthetic gold or backed gold, or you could be buying synthetic stocks. So there are quite a few options there. And what you try to do is you try to pick assets that are either less volatile than your own governance token. So that's the BTC or the ETH, the more established cryptocurrencies that tend to not go up or down as much. Or you can have uncorrelated or negatively correlated assets, which are the stable coins or metals or stocks. Now, what it gives you is allows you to retain upside exposure in the case that the market goes up. That's for the BTC and the ETH. But it also gives you a rainy day fund on the way down, because you have these stable coins and these other assets to fall back on. So it's basically a counter-cyclical policy that you're enacting, and the goal is to mitigate risk there. So now, for example, if the market conditions are a bit depressed and you have to fund something for the project, you're being forced to sell your token on the way down. In the case that you've been diversifying your assets, you can actually sell off those assets that you diversified into. And that means you don't contribute further to the price going down. You actually keep it a little bit more healthy. Now, the assets that we mentioned, in the case of for example, stablecoins, you can use them to generate cash flows. You can farm yield by providing liquidity. You can do that with the BTC or the ETH as well, of course. And another option is to accumulate some governance tokens into other DeFi protocols. A main one that you would be looking into is CRV. So you can think of VE CRV or CVX CRV. Those are productive assets, and they entitle you to protocol revenue. That's another form to generate yield, and that yield can be used to cover periodic expenses for your own project. So you don't have to any longer sell your own governance token, or just simply not as many for expenses, and that way you reduce the overall selling pressure on your token, whether that be on the way up or on the way down. And these governance tokens that you hold, they also tend to provide you with some voting rights. And if you're holding governance tokens as a treasury, you're basically performing meta governance, which is having, as a DAO, having collective voting power in the protocol that you're using. So let's say we're holding CVX, the governance token for Convex. That means we can use that to vote on their own governance proposals when those come out. We can vote to benefit our own vault users if we're a user of Convex. We can vote to increase revenue going into our staking tokens, and we can help. We can also create a mutually beneficial relationship with Convex, because tokens, projects especially appreciate when you're not just dumping their token. They like when you're holding it and you're participating in governance just as any other user would. And this also makes it more easy to partner with them. Now, those are some advantages that I lined up, and now CS is going to talk a little bit about how this can influence our strategy going forward.
Yeah, thank you for that, AE. I think, all of those kind of hypothetical, options and benefits really, really was a key motivator behind a lot of the projects in DeFi as to why they've decided recently to focus on diversifying their treasury. And, like I mentioned before, it's something that yAxis can really learn from and think about its strategy moving forward around treasury management. And kind of very timely with that, sort of unprovoked. There's a few community members, I believe, Larry, who is a yAxis OG, so it's nice to see him, and Michael Brock, and then trying to think who else. I think there was one other community member. I believe
We had Timmy, for example. We had Gun
Yeah.
Lawyer. We had a few.
Yeah, and I think Mental also commented on the forum post. So all of them are commented on the forum post. So, really appreciate again all of the community engagement there and the input and all the thoughtful comments. But a common thread throughout was kind of many people saying we should look to diversify our treasury and make that a key need and a key priority moving forward. And some people suggested, maybe shifting away from the buyback strategy in the short term to kind of build that treasury while we're still in a high emission phase. So some of the ideas that were kind of tossed around that sort of seem reasonable within this context of treasury diversification, and hopefully, some of the background that we provided today on treasury diversification will help you, maybe better understand and consider some of those comments that were provided by some of the community members. And again, really, really some great, innovative ideas there. And so, kind of carrying along on that pathway and thinking about some of the hypothetical ways that yAxis could implement some of this community feedback and some of these community ideas is, in the short term, we could take the revenue that we're generating in V3 and put that in the treasury in the form of a variety of like assets, such as stable coins and blue chips, kind of like we just mentioned. And one of the things that came up on the forum post, on the forum discussion over and over was kind of, CVX CRV, and obviously kind of hinted at here and there the goal to, leverage Convex as kind of a yield generating platform and kind of sit on top of the money Lego stack over there in the Curve ecosystem. And basically using the governance tokens that we farm as that we're generating revenue with. So we are obviously, if we were farming over at Convex, we'd be generating yield in a few types of tokens, and then obviously taking the project performance fee, which is the revenue that would be generated, and potentially using that to convert to some stable coins and some blue chips like a CRV. And like we mentioned in the forum discussion a few times, people mentioned CVX CRV as something that can generate cash flow. You can earn a lot of yield on your CVX CRV. It's a highly cash flow productive asset, and so we could potentially use that to kind of build an asset base for the treasury that's generating free cash flow that we could use to maybe fund project development and other things with the cash flow only, and kind of just keep the asset base for the treasury as something to kind of build it up as a rainy day fund, and then have the another portion of the revenue going into stable coins as that other, more rock solid rainy day fund, even in a market pullback. So this is some of the things that, when you think about some of this community feedback and how the project could kind of implement it, these give us some great options. And, with the CVX CRV and some of the cash flow you could really generate there, given the high yield that you can earn, we could be in a position to fund the partner program, other project expenses, development needs, and attract more developer talent, to attract more strategy developers. Some of these other things that we look at today, where it's a tough situation to make those types of calls. When to fund things, you have to sort of sell your own token to be able to afford it. So I think that the community is really coming up with some great ideas here to think about how we could navigate around that situation and open up more optionality and potentially fund some of these things like strategy developers with blue chip assets, a diversified treasury, cash flows from that treasury. And if we have, let's say, better strategies and more institutional grade features, because we're able to support more developer talent, we're able to build a better product that attracts more capital as we hit the lower emission phase later on. And then by then you'll sort of have like a secured treasury and the project's funding future. And then the buybacks can sort of kick in as, they're going to have greater impact and greater value when it's a lower emission phase, and the yield on due to emissions is much lower for stakers. And so you really want to have that revenue be a key component then. So these are obviously just things to think about, and something that, we were really happy to see the community kind of taking relevant topics within DeFi and thinking about how we could integrate it at yAxis. And some of this stuff definitely, I think, resonated with all of us, and it's good things to think about, taking advantage of some of these benefits that a more diverse treasury could kind of offer us. So with that, I think we've kind of rambled a bit enough about that. But if people have more questions, feel free to toss them in the live questions. That being said, we're going to try to sprint through the questions that were asked in advance. We had we had a few quite a few kind of questions and suggestions, so we'll try to get through them all. Just in future weeks, I would say let's try to keep suggestions to Ideas Hub and pure questions about the project, for this time, so that way we can make sure that we get to all the questions and give them all their appropriate time that they're needed. So with that, we will move into the TISC's weekly food question. In the spirit of wrap tokens, what do we as a herd enjoy best? Rangoons, wontons, dumplings, mandu, pot stickers, or any variation thereof. It's obviously a great redemption arc this week. I'd go with pot stickers personally. I don't know if anybody else has thoughts on that. I think Mr. Mister was excited for this question.
Oh man, so excited. Dim sum. Can I say dim sum? Just like all the little different kinds of dim sum. I think shout out to Big Poppy for his soup dumpling mention. But yeah, I'm all about those little dim sum guys.
Alrighty, good stuff.
I'm a fan of the pork xiao long bao from Din Tai Fung over in Hong Kong. It's amazing.
That's a nice one, Bobby. Choice selection.
Yeah, that was a cultured response. That went over my head.
Yeah, you got to go to the local one in Kowloon, not to the big mall.
Oh man. But Echo Patient, kind of moving on. Echo Patient asked, CoinMarketCap and Messari have incorrect market cap data. Is there any way for the team to fix it? So the team kind of contacted these data sources originally around the time of the token swap, and basically asked them to update their data, and they have not done so. And there have been, multiple follow-ups since, kind of to no avail. Sort of out of the team's control in that sense. I mean, we can only just point people, as a project, we can only just point people toward the the Dune Analytics dashboard as the most accurate source of data. The team can try sending another round of follow-ups, but that's kind of on those data providers to provide accurate information to their users if they kind of want to retain users. I mean, the team's done their part to push that forward as best as they could. So Martek asked if we could have a simple UI/app as a savings account for newcomers with a fiat on-ramp. This is one of those that probably in future weeks would like to maybe keep the Ideas Hub, but definitely a good approach and a good thought here. I think personally, in my the feedback that we've gotten is that the current UI is pretty clean compared to most across DeFi, and we also have the new UI launching with V3, and that's going to be even more simple and have a bit more of a savings account feel. You're going to have an account balance graph. There's no more need to convert to 3CRV. Some of those other things that will make it a little less user friction, a little more cleaner user feel that is a little bit more like a savings account. Kind of as we've discussed in recent weeks, fiat on-ramp partners are being vetted, and that's on the team's radar, and obviously like to integrate that component as well to get, like you said, give a little bit more of a savings account feel. None of this stuff is going to happen overnight, but it's sort of a gradual progression toward making DeFi easier and more accessible. I am that asked about adding development resources. So are there any plans for that? And the short answer is yes. The project recently brought back in the Link Frog poster to help bring the vaults across the finish line as kind of an extra pair of eyes. And that was kind of in an announcement, I think probably 2 weeks ago now, maybe 2-3 weeks ago. And then we also have another developer who the project's been in touch with, who has done work for yAxis in the past, who's looking to contribute and write strategies for V3. So that's obviously exciting and some of where the convex focus comes into play. And then, also the team's also communicating with another developer interested in writing V3 strategies as well. On the front end side, the V3 front end is in good shape at the moment. So obviously, better strategies is more revenue, is more TVL. So that's obviously a huge focus, and I think we're pretty well positioned there in terms of adding capacity. And just that being said, something to consider when you're thinking about just adding development resources is like, a lot of times the term development resources is used as if like it's all it's all equal. But something to consider is that like transfer and call TNC is like an OG solidity professional and a security expert. So the project's always super thoughtful about who it wants to work with and ensuring that level of security and expertise is maintained. Adding more resources isn't always as important as adding the right resources, especially when user funds and the project reputation and brand is at stake all the time. And you've seen other projects cut corners in this sense, and it's very difficult to come back from that. Big Poppy, I'm going to take a run through quick on all your questions here. We got a nice slate here. So Big Poppy asked, is there a better resource for the learn link to point to in the links menu? I thought it would go to a learning page about DeFi, which might be my mistake too. Yeah, I mean, we want to point people, if they're in our Discord, to learn more about yAxis in our project in general. That would be, I think, what they would be kind of expecting to see. And on that note, what informational educational resources do we have targeting institutions was another one of Big Poppy's questions. And yeah, the team has like pitch decks and that type of materials as well, those types of materials. And Big Poppy asked again kind of about the meme contest. And so, we're going to let the NFT contest, finish first and really leverage some of the content coming out of that before moving on to kind of additional contests. But yeah, definitely a feasibility. Just want to let the kind of existing contests we have sort of play out and leverage the outputs from those. Somebody, Big Poppy also asked about the basically more details about the multi-sig, and I will toss it over to Bobby for a little more detail there.
Yeah, it's totally fair actually to say that we should put more information on that on the Gitbook, for example. That's probably the best place to put it. The multi-sig actually started off back in September when it first launched the project, before any of us were involved, with like 7 people, and they were kind of 7 people that founded the project, and they didn't really do anything. They're actually original like Discord server founders and stuff like this, and they didn't actually really participate. They just kind of founded it, including the multi-sig. Then back in like December time, Delta Y, that's his name, Delta Y, he changed the multi-sig and he introduced lots of new members to it. Not myself, actually, I was just after that. So from then on, we had a separate treasury and a separate multi-sig. And then around like March time, as we're coming up towards, we were about to launch the whole era, 4 areas, etc., and do the token swap. Again, we slimmed down that multi-sig just to make sure there's actually active people on it. So at the moment, we've got 4 or 5 guys on there. You need to have 3 signatures. And yeah, we put most, for any contract change, essentially, has to go through the multi-sig. There's a 24-hour time lock as well. But things like a harvest, for example, that doesn't have to go through multi-sig. That's just a whitelisted address. But yeah, almost everything else has to go through that multi-sig. And what I like about it at the moment is that it's balanced between team members and developers. So you can't just have like the developers go off on their own and do something, or the team members, for example. You have to kind of have like that consensus between both halves of the project, which is nice. But I think, yeah, it's a good idea to put this kind of information up on the Gitbook, so we'll look to do that.
Alrighty, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Bobby. Another kind of suggestion here from Big Poppy was, is there a charter for the DAO, or should there be one as we mature? And obviously, I think it's not a bad idea, and making sure that the project stays true to its principles even over time. If you have any examples that you kind of come across the space, I think we would love to check those out as maybe a foundation for something that we could build off. And Martek asks the next question. Martek asks about strategists, and we added some color on that above about strategy developers. So that's in a good place. Neil74 asked about compounding rewards in gauges. And so anytime you would choose to claim and compound your claim, compound, like obviously claim and stake your yAxis in the gauges, you would be able to choose a lock time for that amount that you were staking. So you could have your principal that you first put in as a specific lock time, and then you could have, with the rewards that you're claiming and restaking, you could hypothetically have a different lock time on though. You could choose a different lock time from the gauges if you wanted to. And just regarding, auto compound, the decision there, I think we talked about this the last couple of weeks, I think, and then also a bit in Discord, but just wanting to go with the safe and battle tested contracts over with using Curve's contracts in that sense, and also keeping user optionality open, because they might not want to lock on an auto compound since gauges have a locking component. You didn't want to force the user to basically lock there. Curve, and to your comment, Neil, as well about is that going to affect TVL in the staking pool? Curve and Convex both don't offer auto compound, and they both have massive TVL and use like a similar gauges type system. So I don't think it's really going to be a huge concern. The yield being offered is pretty attractive on its own for sure. Zemus asked, auto compound and dark mode, which we hit on auto compound just above in Neil's question, and then also on some other episodes. But if you have any more questions on that, feel free to follow up. And then Zemus also asked about dark mode, which dark mode will go live with the new UI for V3, which is should be pretty slick. So looking forward to that. And Zemus also asked about the insurance timeline. So don't want to just throw out dates out there. So we might as well just leave it at working on getting V3 deployed first, and then focusing on further automation and strategies, and insurance becomes the next main focus. So need to have kind of V3 deployed first before moving forward and adding an insurance function. So kind of taking this one step at a time and getting the deployment right, and kind of being happy about that and celebrating that win, and then moving forward as to how we can iterate and improve from there. So everything is just going to be always launched on a as quick as possible sort of basis. I mean, I think generally speaking, everybody here is pretty bought into the project's vision and what yAxis is trying to do, and the people and community that we have behind the project, and all that intellectual capital behind it. And I think a 1 to 2 week to 1 month differences on launches of things doesn't affect the value proposition of the project on material time horizon. And I think the team and communication strategy has been solid around major project updates.
And just to add to that, and just confirm that we are in the audit process now for the vaults. So it's just a matter of time until that finishes off, and then we can launch. The actual development's finished now, so that's all good news for us. We can shortly put that up for public review, I guess, and add it to the Immunify public bug bounty. That's a good idea to do. For the insurance stuff, we'd love to do that in-house, just because we're looking to build a long-term platform that lasts for decades or generations, for example, and you can for sure make the most efficient solution by doing that in-house. If you outsource that, then it's never going to be kind of like a guaranteed payout for people if anything did happen. So and insurance companies are very, very large and successful companies for a reason, because things are in their favor. So it's nice if we're going to start off from the very beginning as a new project to build that in-house and make sure that it's the best solution that it can be, that actually serves the users rather than serves the insurance company.
Yeah, no, that's super great color. And I think, like I've talked about in previous weeks, that the planned implementation is just super scalable with the amount of TVL actually in the vaults. And many of these other solutions where projects are using their own tokens to back assets, like you could never back more than your own market cap of the token. So it just sort of limits scalability in that sense. And so this is just a super scalable solution. And I think that we're obviously all excited to see get developed and rolled out. But for now, just focusing on getting V3 deployed, and excited to see how close that really is, and moving forward from there, and deploying the new strategies, and really making this a big revamp and a big time for the project. So with that, I know we're kind of past where we would like to usually end, so I'll just take a quick run through of the questions. Chowden asked, how much is in the treasury? So you can kind of use the resources page to I'll just throw a link for you. The resources page to see that. I would focus on the development wallet, because that's what actually funds the development of the project. Whereas, like, if you're looking at what's going to be emitted to vault depositors and stakers and liquidity providers, and that's not really funding the project. That's just going to be going to the community and going to users. So the development wallet is really the key thing there. So we can share that with you, and obviously that's something that we would be potentially looking to kind of diversify and bolster, and sort of what the community picked up on in the forum discussion. Nicholas asked, Love Weebrew asked, can you spill the beans on other big partners you're working with? I think we've talked about people that sort of reached out throughout the era, and some of those other like institutional capital, and mining pools, and some of the connections between Cosmo X and their clientele, that they're looking to be part of the partner program and bring other depositors and other capital into the vaults. But I mean, other than that, nothing specific there. And sorry to kind of hit some of these so quick. I just wanted to make sure that we sort of keep with the schedule. Nicholas asked, if we decide to buy a certain percentage of the treasury with some crypto blue chips, what would be the time horizon for holding these? Are we going to take profits in a bull run? And that's sort of the idea, right? It's like we could use the community and governance to kind of manage that, and then also just giving us that optionality where we would retain some upside, but if things we had some downside in the market, that we would still be able to rely on the stable coins that are in. So obviously, I mean, we haven't even gotten to the point where we've decided to diversify the treasury, and I've had a lot of community feedback on it, but certainly once we got there, then we could look at how we would want to maybe manage that a little bit more actively. But I think the key component to really focus on is generating cash flow from that diversified treasury, which is something that we can't do today really with the yAxis in the treasury, because we wouldn't want to dilute our own staking pool. That wouldn't really make a lot of sense. So that optionality in paying for expenses and cash flow and growing an asset base, I think is huge. So Flynn asked, what is yAxis doing with their own governance tokens right now? The vast majority are being emitted to vault users, stakers, community, and then some are obviously being used for product development, as you can see in the development wallet. And then, sorry, I'm just trying to read Nicholas's question really quick. Yeah, I mean, so I'm kind of getting the gist of your question here. It's talking about could we offer to users the opportunity to buy the yAxis token by selling an asset to the protocol, like what Olympus DAO does. And that's not really exactly what I think the project is trying to do, but Gauges would create an opportunity for for basically users to want to buy the yAxis token in order to gain more benefits and use the protocol to their greatest benefit. So that's a huge incentive mechanism to want to buy yAxis if you're going to be a user of yAxis. So
another cool thing that we've been looking at as well is the UMA range token, which is another way to diversify the treasury, and you can then offer that token to your community, which has some extra utility on it. So that's the one way to kind of like almost like raise a treasury or diversify your treasury within your own community, which is something which we're watching and seeing if that's going to be something which is going to be a fit for us or not.
Yeah, awesome. That's definitely an innovative product for them, and something that is another thing for the community and the project and the team to look at. So thank you for everything this week, guys. You had a ton of questions, a ton of engagement. So it's fantastic to see, and hopefully you learned a little bit about treasury diversification, some of the benefits and things that enables, and then looking forward to how we can maybe look to implement some of the community feedback and comments and suggestions on the forum. So thank you everyone, and we'll see you next week. And we'll obviously always be around if you have any additional questions and things you like to ask. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, guys. All the best.
See you later, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Happy Friday. See ya.